Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the third show for Coffee with Chris, the new content series I've got going on here on my personal LinkedIn and across the Reeve social media business channels. Super excited to get into this one today with a really inspirational lady, and so I will introduce her now. Her name is Barbara Fountain. She is the CEO and founder of peer-to-peer support group Young Tongues, and for you Norfolk folks, you would have seen her somewhere, somehow. She's an absolute superstar. Barbara, welcome along to Coffee with Chris. First of all, you did show me your coffee cup prior to start. Can we get a little bit of a toast on that, please?
Oh, absolutely. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Of course, if I am sharing the stage with you, Chris, it has to be a Norwich City mug. No other way about it.
I mean, I must admit, that's the best effort yet from a guest. So they've got a lot to step up to next time. Barbara, let's get into this conversation. I'm just really in awe of what you've managed to achieve over the last few years, considering what's happened. And so I just wanted to maybe just give you an opportunity to sort of, set the scene really in terms of what has happened to you in the past few years, and then critically then moving that forwards into how have you actually then sort of turned to social media to create what you've created today?
Absolutely. So in 2019, actually New Year's Eve 2018-19, I was diagnosed with tongue cancer. Now, when I was diagnosed, I was like, what? Really? What's that? So I ended up having a partial gliccectomy. That means I had part of my tongue removed, rebuilt using part of my arm. It was quite a hefty surgery, 12 hours, and then recovery and checkups ever since. I was lucky. I had minimal spread, so we decided not to have radiation or chemo at the time, and which is why I'm able to speak, eat and swallow, which I have come to learn is a real privilege. One of the key challenges for me was that I felt incredibly isolated. So tongue cancer is a type of cancer that traditionally affects the elderly, male, smoking and heavy alcohol consuming population. That's how you would typically, as a primary healthcare professional, think of what a tongue cancer patient looks like. Now, things are changing, but the reality was that here at the Norfolk and Norwich, I was a bit of an oddity, and I felt that in the waiting room. I felt that in terms that I didn't have any peers to link up with who had either gone through the same experience or were going through the same experience, unlike other more common cancers in that sort of sense. And I sat with that loneliness for quite a long time, and it especially affected my mental health. Again, having a cancer that's in your face is very invasive. It's very personal. The risks are really high. You come out with facial disfigurements. You have to learn how to eat and talk again. So it's very it's tough. And I think I struggled with the fact that I didn't find anyone to relate to, and I felt really alien, and I felt like an oddity. That's the best way I can describe it. So fast forward to 2021, COVID times, we're all stuck at home. We've all started using Zoom. And I had previously found two lovely ladies on Instagram who also had tongue cancer, were also in their early 30s, and were also posting social media about their experiences. And we're like on a chat and just like, this is amazing. And also cheering each other on. So the other two went through radiation, which is brutal. So we were able to sort of support each other through those experiences. So that's how social media, the first trickle, impacted our journey, because it took away that loneliness. Even just the 2-3 of us, I
think it's incredible, Barbara. I really do, and it shines a light on the fact that social isn't this all dark, gloomy, negative, nasty, siloed world, right? It can be a huge force for good, and can really actually, of course, it can negatively impact your mental health. I'm a testimony of that, but it can also improve your mental health. And I think you know, well, I don't think we know that loneliness is something that's probably high up on the agenda right now, but still not enough people are talking about that. And particularly when you've gone through what you've gone through, I couldn't imagine how tough that was for you, Barbara. So I was delighted that you found, you know, your mini, at that point, tribe of people. And so I'm really then interested to move it forwards again, Barbara. Let me press the fast forward button again, because you just kind of knocked on my door. I remember at the time thinking, cool, blooming heck, this is really interesting. I've never done anything like this before. And you obviously then spoke to me about what you were up to and where you were going. And so you almost took this mini tribe and made it into a big one through social. So how did you go about that?
Yes. So the initial thing was the three of us decided to have a Zoom, and we just invited anyone that we knew. So there were 12 of us, and I straight away realized that there was a real need. There was a real need for support, peer support, exchange of experience. And also I realized the questions that were coming up, we all had the same questions, yet Dr. Google wasn't helpful. So I really felt, okay, there is a need for educational, practical content that even if people aren't able to exchange with each other, they have access to those sort of support. So where did we go from there? So overnight, I said Young Tongues. So that was the name. There was no democracy there, I'm afraid. I knocked on the door of a mate who's a designer. I said, I need a logo. He did a fantastic brand for me. And then knocked on your door and went, right, Chris, I've got this thing. We're a Facebook group at the moment, but basically we need to get out there so other tongue cancer patients can find us. And also we need to get out there so we can start educating the public to let them know that this tongue cancer in young people is on the rise. And we need to get out there and educate primary healthcare professionals that their assumptions of what a tongue cancer patient looks like is no longer accurate. And that is super important for two reasons. At the moment, people in our community are getting sent away and said, it's not tongue cancer, you don't fit the profile, you're too young, you don't smoke, you're fit, you're healthy. Yeah. Doesn't work. And people keep having to go back to their dentists, their GPs over and over again before they get like forwarded to a to a specialist.
Yes.
That means delays. And those delays can be anything between 8 to 18 months. And we are talking about a highly aggressive type of cancer here, squamous cell carcinoma. It goes everywhere really quickly. So it's not only saving lives, early diagnosis also means quality of life. I can speak, I can eat, I can swallow. Stage 1, someone who's stage 4, very different challenges. So that early diagnosis piece is really important. And that's where social media is hugely influential, because we've built this reputation. We've built not just a brand, but a voice that is slowly but surely being heard. So we now have a community of over 500 patients. We also have a community of supporters of people with tongue cancer, so family and friends. And we're looking to have an alumni group in the future as well as healthcare and research and so on.
I love the mission behind this, Barbara. I can feel the passion inside of you. Actually, to be honest with you, it makes me quite emotional to talk about it, really, because like this is why it's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do with social media. Because again, just to reiterate that point, like without this, you know, you wouldn't have reached all those people, right? And so I really want to ask you now, Barbara, like, what were the key things that you put in place in order to achieve those objectives? Obviously, you've spoken there about how education is so important. You needed to reach more people. You also wanted to, I guess, I wouldn't even say necessarily grow a community. I'd say maybe gather up your community, because they're all lost on the internet trying to find other tongue patient tongue cancer patients. What was your strategy? Because when you came to me, you started from literally ground zero and you went, Chris, help. So I'm really keen to ask for your opinion on what you do.
One of the key words I took from you and from our discussions was authenticity. And I sort of ran with that because I early set this mission and said, okay, all content that we produce needs to be authentically from a patient's point of view. And this has evolved, but rings so true, because when you go on to more generalized websites about tongue cancer, yes, it lists the side effects. Yes, it gives you a synopsis, but it's very much from a clinical point of view. So we started creating content that speaks with a patient's voice. And so, for example, let me give you an example. One of the examples is on Saturdays, we do question time. So we take a question that was asked within our community and we take the answers. We anonymize them, of course, because of privacy. And we, do the grammar changes, but we then put them together in slides and put them up. And we ask people who then say to, feed in onto Instagram, what would you say? How did you deal with this side effect? How did you feel with X, Y, Z? What's also really interesting, and there's it on the side effects, is for radiation, on average, on a medical website, you have 5 side effects. We are identified 23 side effects.
Wow.
23 medical conditions that were challenging individuals within our community, more than one. So we gathered information about that. We're now putting that together. So we are putting together a more comprehensive information. So the sort of vision is that we'll have a website platform where, depending on where you are in your stage, because we don't want to overwhelm people. So if you've not been diagnosed yet, freshly diagnosed, in treatment or after, it takes you on a pathway and provides you with all this intelligence that we've gathered over the last 2-3 years and are still gathering and will implement on more. So really, for me, it has always been incredibly important that we speak with a voice that is authentic and true to ourselves as patients.
Do you know, Barbara, as a top line bit of advice, it's fabulous and very coincidental that you should suggest this, because in each of the Coffee with Chris conversations so far, with 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀 on AI, our first one, Luke Plain, who's the king of the recruitment locally, again spoke about authenticity, UGC, speaking about it from a recruitment perspective. And again, you brought it up, authenticity. Really, what you've done there is you've got the patient stories, right? And that is going to help them, but it's also going to help with all of your social media goals and objectives, because people trust it more, people believe it more, people want to read that. People don't want to see things from a clinical perspective, they want to hear it from a human perspective. I'm not saying doctors aren't, obviously, but it's really good to have that experience from their perspective. And again, to translate this into a business side of things, Barbara, like, that's why I always harp on about the importance of getting your customers and clients to tell your audience about their experience, not you weeing everywhere. We do this, we're the best of that, we're number one. It's so good to have that authenticity point. So that's really good, Barbara. How often have you been posting on social? Where have you been posting on social?
So I have a confession to make.
Oh, have you not been following my coaching?
No, I have followed your coaching to the T until we became a registered charity, and I've been totally overwhelmed with the subtle legal implication of what I own. Yeah. So we were posting daily, 7 days a week, with a few exceptions, which is when I went on honeymoon, it might have been a bit more sporadic or something else. And that will tell you one thing, is that the driving force behind this for the last 2 years was one single person.
Oh, just a quick pause on that. Sorry to interrupt you. When you say you're posting every day, I speak to people about this all the time, and they go, every day? So how have you even done that? Like, how do you come up with the ideas? Is there a structure behind it? And is it now you're in the flow of things? Does daily posts make sense to you as someone that's obviously started from scratch? Because I remember telling you that at the start before I coached you.
So I think if you're just getting started, it's a great place to start was the content pillars. And we worked on that. We came up with 7 content pillars and we were rigorous. So every Monday was an introduction. Every Tuesday was highlighting a different charity. Every Wednesday was a medical term explained. The many buzzwords that we don't actually know what they are about, and so on. And that worked really well, especially because it allows you to create the content in advance, schedule it, and then react in real time once they go out to comments and things like that. It's not really the way how I'm going to go forward, but that's because we've grown and we now and well, to be honest with you, it depends. It depends how many volunteers I can recruit, because I have come to the realization that one person can't do everything. And I have had help with the social media, I have to say, but it is time consuming, but it is also worth it because it gives you a return. So that's where we're at the moment. So we've had to pause on our social media, reduce to 3 times a week. And what I'm currently doing is I'm rescheduling the content I put out 2 years ago because the information is still just as relevant.
Barbara, thank you for bringing this up again. Just I'm so happy that you brought this up. And I saw actually there's a lady that I'm following called 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗀𝗍, who's a personal branding expert. I listened to her at the NatWest Business Conference recently in London, and she's really big up on personal branding. And she put out a post, I think I literally saw it today, around effectively the regurgitation of content and the content pyramid, and using things again and being clever with it and not spending loads of time creating loads of unique content. You don't actually need to do that. I think people almost feel like that's cheating, but Barbara, you're bang on the money. Like, for what you do, there's a lot of non-time sensitive, really, like your educational stuff, for example. Obviously, of course, every now and then there'll be a development where things need to be tweaked, but that's stuff that can run forever. It always shocks people when I speak to them and I'm like, yeah, I've done most of my content for 2024. This was in November last year. Yeah, I've done most of it. And they go, what? And I go, yeah, just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Get those consistent touch points out there. But Barbara, I want to ask you, sorry to rush you along, because I know that you've not got long and time's money and all that. I want to ask you about your challenge coming up, because it is epic, and particularly around some of the ideas and tools and tricks and techniques you've used on social media to help promote this challenge. So go ahead and tell people how crazy you are.
Right. So this year, I'm celebrating 5 years cancer-free. And I thought, what's the best way to celebrate that? Do something you most definitely would have never done if you weren't diagnosed with cancer. So in March, on the 16th of March, I will be getting on a plane, flying to Amman in Jordan. And in Amman, or in Dana, we'll walk 100 kilometers across the desert to Petra in 5 days, which is 100K. And yeah, in the desert, 40 degrees during the day, minus 16 at night.
So Barbara, how are you using social to help with this campaign? And by the way, for anyone that's listening and watching this now, just hit the link down below and do donate to Barbara's cause, because she's raising money for the Young Tongues by doing so. So how are you using social media to create some noise around that, Barbara?
Yeah, so I've had to be really mindful because we live in difficult times. There's a cost of living crisis. Yeah. And then also, whilst I've been training for this, there's been also a conflict in the Middle East. So how do you go about that? So up until a few weeks ago, I kept it very light. I've been consistently training. So I've been doing training videos, reels on my personal social media, on my public profile as well, to basically make everyone aware that Barbara's doing exercise and she's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and she's like seeing sunrises. Why is she doing that? It's the trickle effect, ultimately.
Barbara, quick pause on this, please. Let me come in here, right? Anyone can pick up this technique from you. It's brilliant. Documenting, not creating, getting in that mindset. And you can do this as a business person, as a salesperson, a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, a marketing manager. It doesn't matter. If you're documenting the journey that you're going on to launch a product, to create an event, to start a new business, to lead on a project, if you can take people behind the scenes, literally whacking up that phone, selfie video, 30 seconds to 1 minute little clips. Barbara, what you said there is gold. And I wish more people did that, because as a consequence of that, people will buy into your journey more, your story more, right? So that's really good. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, and also to anyone who's thinking about that or is going like, oh my God, no, I'm just going to put out there, totally fine. You are going to feel stupid whilst doing it.
Yeah.
Because walking around Norwich with like my phone at a selfie, kind of smiling at it, trying to get it's stupid, it's self-indulgent, but you just need to get over that, because you're doing it for the greater cause, to promote whatever it is you're promoting.
Yes.
And there comes a point where you need to just stop taking yourself serious and just have fun with it, right? So I've been doing that consistently. Now since, and also it was like the run up to Christmas, so I'm thinking people are skint. Then it's January, people are still skint, and then I've been starting to change it up a bit in the new year, where I've been taking more videos where I speak, where I give more information about the walk, where I give more information about the charity, about the cause. And I have lots of content to come. And weirdly enough, what I found on my old analytics is that they travel way further and beyond. So talking into a camera is a real powerful thing, because as beautiful, you know, as it is to see scenery and use trending, you know, music, it doesn't have that reach then when you're actually talking authentically from a point and sharing with people. That also means, you know, sharing the fact that I struggle with anxiety. It also is sharing things about my illness that aren't necessarily things that you would talk about on the dinner table, but are very interesting to some people. And ultimately it all raises awareness. So there's like a double whammy here. I'm trying to get people to get invested, to fundraise, to donate, not for me personally, but for the fact that I can then go on to help an entire community for the years to come, a community that is underserved and a community that's growing. But I'm also raising awareness of the fact that tongue cancer exists, and it exists in young people. So there you go.
It's just brilliant, Barbara. I'm really proud of you, mate. I really am. I'm completely in awe of what you've done. I mean that. It's been so good to get you on today. You know, of course, you know, there's a lot of takeaways from a social media perspective, from a business perspective, building a community. There's so much gold and wisdom in there. But before I let you go, where can people follow you, join the journey, donate? Plug it now.
Right. So Instagram, we're the Young Tongues. You'll find us at Young Tongues Global. Me personally, you'll find at Barbara Fountain Reed. That's my old maiden name, just in case people, you know, they get confused. You can find me on there. On LinkedIn, Barbara Fountain Reed as well at the moment. Or even just make Barbara Fountain, either or, you'll find me on there. And the good thing is whenever you see someone with the hair like this, it's probably me. So they're in the same way all the time. Yeah, and like Chris, you said, the Just Giving page is in the notes. Any small amount, hugely appreciated. If you know, buy me a coffee, via the page, be massively appreciated. Makes a huge difference.
Fantastic. And if you know, if it's tough to give right now, please just go and just share that link. I've dropped it down in the descriptions, guys. So just go and pick up that URL for Barbara's Just Giving page and give it a share on social media, because it costs nothing, but it would mean the world to both myself and Barbara to try and raise as much awareness around this as possible. And Barbara, thank you for your time. Good luck. I hope this isn't the last time I speak to you, given what you're about, to do. And thanks as always to everyone watching and tuning in. This has been another episode of Coffee with Chris. Let us know your feedback. And as always, thank you to our charity partner, Big C, another cancer charity, for joining up on this content series. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.